Welcome to the Minorities Report podcast. My name is Antonio Alcazar.
Yo, I'm Tech Nor.
On this podcast, we talk about movies that I have never seen that everybody else has, apparently.
Old school classic hits.
Yeah, mostly old school classic hits. Sometimes we go a little newer school.
Yes.
Because Kingdom of Heaven was like 2005, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, fuck them.
And then, and obviously Jason loves these movies, and so Jason and everybody else loves these movies, and so we just go back, we watch older movies. I talk about how I see them as a person who never saw them and a millennial, and Jason tells me why his Gen Xer opinion is right.
Correct. So today we're hitting you up with the 1982 Conan film.
Conan.
Yes,
Conan.
boy. Director.
We watched an old Arnold movie.
Hell yeah, man. Like,
I feel like 70% of the movies we watch are old Arnold movies.
I mean, that's what we set the podcast up to be, pretty much. An old. We could have just called this the Arnold cast, or Arnold's Arms, or some shit like that. Reports on Arnold's Arms. So, director John Milius, he won. This guy won an award actually for screenwriting Apocalypse Now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. So
the guy who directed this,
correct,
screenwrote Apocalypse Now.
Yes. Yep.
You know, that actually makes sense.
Yeah. Conan the Barbarian, bro. This is, importantly, one of Arnold's first films in the U.S.
Okay.
Yes.
That is informative.
Yes,
really? I didn't know
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had he done anything before this?
Nothing that was like anything that was.
Did he have a secret porno like Sylvester
No,
Stallone?
he did like some bodybuilding things and stuff like that. But this was the first thing he did that was a film in the U.S. that was like, here we go.
Interesting.
Arnold.
Yeah, he was really ripped in this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump right into this, and the intro for this is a telling of tales, basically. The chronicler of Conan is about to drop you into the days of high adventure.
Yeah, this takes in a place, this is the something age, what is this? The Hyperion age. So immediately I'm like, wait, this is Earth?
Well,
and so I Googled it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess the Hyperion age or whatever it is like an old Greek age that is supposed to take place after Atlantis but before Greece.
Yes.
And it's like roughly, it could be anywhere from 35 to like 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, all right, let's watch this movie with that kind of like world building context.
Sure.
Because I always, longtime listeners of the show, to borrow a phrase from Jason, know that I love me some world building.
He loves him some world building.
And so when a movie's just like, I got some world building for you, I'm just like, okay, cool. I'll jump into your universe for a little while.
Yeah.
And so that's why I Googled just that.
I got you.
Yeah.
Totally. So we jump into a forge that's burning hot to some like epic fucking intro music. Yeah.
So right off the bat, I'm just like, we didn't have iron 10,000 years ago, but I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Man, I got to tell you right off the bat before we go into too far, I'm not going to give you my opinion of the film, obviously, but I love the music of this film. The deep drums that are just like,
yes, sure.
Like, man, I just love that shit so much. And you get that right in the intro right away.
I'm setting you up for what this was going to be.
Yeah, the forge is burning hot, and we kind of jump to Conan's dad explaining to him what the gods are, the enigma of steel.
How important steel is.
Yes, and this scene to me looks so awesome. It's very Clash of the Titans with like the back.
We didn't even have copper at that point, but like, okay. We had forged steel, I guess.
Shut the fuck up.
I guess in my mind I was saying, I guess we just lost this technology.
Yes,
that's fine.
Exactly that. Yeah. I mean, that's happened before, too.
Of course,
so,
sure, yeah.
We had working toilets and shit like that in Rome. But you know what? When North America started, we didn't have working aqueducts and shit like that. We had outhouses. Sure. So, like, there
was plumbing in Machu Picchu. Like, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So, he talks to him about the riddle of steel, and he specifically says, no one you can trust, but this...
Yeah.
This you can trust.
Yeah. You can't trust anything, but you can trust your steel.
Yes, you can trust steel, right? And that is the riddle of steel. So we go from there to some more. Well, I love the score of this film because there's just always undertones of music going on and whatnot. And we see some snake boys rolling in. They got all kinds of snake iconography, right?
Memorabilia.
So you know what this reminded me of straight up when these guys come in to attack? Chaos war bands for Warhammer.
Sure.
You know, like fucking barbarian dudes and shit. And they come in and they're just starting to...
I didn't super understand what was happening here.
Right.
I think maybe either that was the point or it was just poorly done. I'm going to give it to him and say that was
just
the point.
throwing you into it. Right away.
But so, like, I didn't know
they explain it later.
Conan's dad was.
Sure.
Was he like a tribal leader of some kind?
Yeah, he was like the blacksmith of that clan.
Okay, but it was just a little clan.
Yeah.
And then this guy came in, and to be honest, I thought the king or the leader of this warband was the dude, the big guy with the beard.
Yep.
And then it turns out it was James Earl Jones.
It's James
But I
Earl
thought
Jones.
obviously you didn't get that. I didn't understand it until later in the movie. At this point, I thought that the James Earl Jones character was just like their shaman magic person, you know, like the wizard guy that came along with the bearded guy. But then it wasn't, you know.
No, I was going to say because like... So they all come in and they attack and they burn everything down and whatnot, and they kill Conan's dad and
kill everybody.
The
only people left alive at the end of this thing are the kid and the mom.
Yep. And so there's Conan's dad's sword, this really high end sword, is laying there. The guy you're talking about with the beard and everything picks it up, hands it to James Earl Jones. James Earl kind of just is looking over it and whatever, very in awe of this thing and whatnot. And Conan's mom, stands there and whatnot. He chops off Conan's mom's head, and man, James Earl fucking Jones, dude, his glorious hair, man. His hair is so ridiculous in this art.
It's one of the silliest things I think I've seen in any
movie.
Dude,
you know how old he was in this scene?
His fucking bangs, dude. I was laughing my ass off.
He was 52 years old here.
Wow.
He
didn't look 52.
He
looked fairly young.
He's black. So this dude,
I would have thought he's 52 today.
I'm going to talk about James Earl Jones.
How old is James Earl Jones?
91 or 92.
Wow.
So and still in movies. He was just in Coming to America 2 while Gene Hackman's sitting on his ass doing nothing. Let's talk about James Earl Jones for a second, bro. First of all, when I found out he was 52 in this movie, and this is some of his earlier movies, I just decided I'm becoming an actor.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm doing it, bro. If James Earl can do it,
you got 12 years.
Exactly. This dude, if America had like a knighting service like England did and shit like that, James Earl Jones would be a knight for sure. This dude was born in 1931, Mississippi. So 30s, Mississippi, deep south, shitty fucking shit, joined the military, fought in the Korean War as an Army Ranger, dude. So, that's step down from Special Forces. Badass motherfucker. Okay, so I just want to talk about him for a little bit. Great actor, obviously. I mean, everybody's familiar with James Earl Jones from fucking, you obviously not Conan, but this was a big deal for a lot of other people.
Here's what James Earl Jones is for me.
Darth Vader.
Yep. And Mufasa.
Sure.
That's it.
Two of, gigantic movies.
Yeah, those are gigantic roles,
exactly.
for sure. But
So,
I'm just saying, that's who he is.
Yeah, I get you.
Oh, and he was the guy in Sandlot. So I guess 3 movies.
I mean, he's been a fatherly figure in a lot of different movies and whatnot. So okay. So Conan is enslaved, goes to the north, and he goes to the Wheel of Pain, and of course,
I really, really wish that they would have explained to me what this wheel is.
Yeah,
I just wanted to know.
Sure,
it didn't have to even involve the plot. Just tell me what it's doing.
No, the Wheel of Pain, bro.
Yeah, it's just a wheel.
Yep.
What happens there?
Turns you from a little kid.
It turns you into
a fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It turns you into a savage, is what it does.
Yep. And a guy comes and he picks him up. Sit here, dude. I got to tell you, one of the things I love about this movie, man, such little dialogue. I don't know why. I just love that there's almost no dialogue to this film.
Has been in the past, in my opinion, done well.
Yeah.
And even for bad movies, it's been done well.
Sure.
So a movie that comes to mind is Apocalypto.
Sure.
Apocalypto.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's not my favorite movie in the world.
No.
But it did the no speaking thing, the saying through showing, really well.
Sure.
And this one,
I actually like that movie. I don't love that movie, but there are things I like about that movie a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't like that it's ridiculous time, it's this amalgam. It's like having a woolly mammoth in ancient Egypt. This is ridiculous.
There was a lot of you didn't take any amount of time to make sure that this was culturally accurate,
right, exactly.
This is not what these people looked like.
Right.
These people were fully clothed and living in houses.
Yeah.
And they're but it looks cooler if they're just naked and they're living in fucking tents.
Right. This is that's
a little racist.
People who don't know like history well,
Sure.
look at this film and think it's like Saving Private Ryan or something like that, where
No.
it's a little fake, but I mean, we did
Mostly
storm
it
the
was like-
beaches
yeah,
of
for sure,
Normandy and we fought against the Germans there, but of course there was no Ryan or anything like
the
that.
Aztecs did not live like this.
Right,
Like they
right.
they were one of the most advanced cultures on the planet. When
Sure,
the Spanish
at that
shows
time,
up.
yeah.
They
So-
just didn't have gunpowder and shit
Right,
like that.
exactly.
So, you know,
So-
obviously diseases were a different thing
Yeah.
for them. But like when you showed up, the largest city on earth was Tenochtitlan.
Sure.
So like that's like counts for a lot.
That's
know?
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool. I'd like to learn more about
It's some cool ass shit.
like that.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I love
shit.
history in general. So like,
Yeah.
and I've expanded myself. Like I used to just learn about U.S. history, and I know
of
so much about U.S. history now.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've been trying to expand towards like the Ottoman Empire. So I learned a lot about the Ottoman Empire and shit like that. Like I know about Roman Empire and
Yeah,
like
of
Greek and
course.
shit like that,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
not things like the Ottomans and like Mesopotamia, things like that. Like
Mesoamerica, Mesopotamia, both of them are very crazy.
so I definitely want to learn more about stuff like that as I grow. So he gets thrown into the pit and he becomes a pit fighter here. And slowly but surely we start to see him age as this pit fighter because he starts off like kind of not knowing what to do. And
like
before
he,
you know
like
it-
he seems like he's just crying real hard,
Yeah.
and then eventually he's just like champion,
Yes.
like he's like the big guy. You know?
Exactly,
Like, people are
exactly.
chanting his name and shit.
they start teaching him about reading and he starts to get women too because, he's Conan.
That scene was so fucking awkward.
I mean,
bro.
yeah, of course.
That scene was rough,
Right.
Like, and I know that, like, no product of its fucking time or
Yeah.
whatever. But what a scene! Dude.
And it, not only is it a product of its time, it's trying to show you this like ancient, like shitty, like situation Conan's in, and this woman's also in a shitty situation.
She
and
really did not
she
want to
kinda-
be there.
Well, right, but then Conan doesn't take advantage of that or anything like that.
Yeah,
He
he
covers
does.
her up. No, he doesn't. He covers
he
her
has
up
sex
and he
with her.
lays. No, not with that woman.
Yeah, and that woman. He grabs her and gently rapes her. But he rapes her for sure.
Sure.
Like that's like it was a the implication was that he was so overpowering that she just kind of let it happen and she didn't struggle much, but that was still super rough to watch.
So from there he also starts learning about sword play and stuff. He gets training in sword play, and
From the Asian guy.
Yes, he starts to
10,000 years before any of this.
Fuck you. So, of course, the quote, "What is best in life? To crush your enemies, to see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of the women."
I don't know if it was his delivery or if it was the line, but I cringed so hard, I almost fainted.
Yeah,
Blood stopped rushing to my brain.
great quote. At this
Great quote. Okay.
Conan's master finally frees him. At this point, he's like, "Get the fuck out of here! You've won me enough fights.
You've earned it."
Yes, you're free now." So dogs come after him, but he falls into a cave dedicated to Crom. This is where he finds his first sword.
What? How did you know it was Crom?
Because he says Crom.
Oh, okay.
You were probably spaced out at this scene already.
Yeah, I know. Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, he takes a sword.
Yes.
And it's a good sword, still
Yes.
sharp.
Right.
Obviously well crafted.
Of course.
Yeah.
Finds himself a house, and he's invited in by a
he's
good-looking
just walking
woman.
around, and he gets to like this little hut.
Yeah.
And there's just some lady who's just like, "Hey,
Pretty good-looking woman.
would
yeah,
you like to
"Hey,
have
come
sex?"
on in.
And
Yeah.
he's just like, "Sure,
Sure,
yeah, might
right.
as
I'll
well."
have sex with
Yeah,
you if you
yeah.
want. And then, of course, she reveals herself to be a witch.
Yeah.
Throws her into the fire. I laughed out loud at the scene where he throws her into the fire. Just so funny to me. And he runs out and
It was a very explicit sex scene, followed by a really comical death.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
And he
Extremely explicit sex scene,
right.
followed by an extremely comical death.
I'm not arguing with you. I loved it. So
He chucks her into the fire, dude.
yes.
Fucking-
I told you I laughed out loud at
Yeah,
the scene.
yeah.
So he goes outside and he finds a guy that's locked up. "I have not eaten for days."
Yeah.
And who says you will?
And then they both laugh.
And they form a friendship,
Yeah.
and they talk about gods and life and things like that. And then he kind of leads them to a castle city, and they go to check it out. And
He's his archer now.
yes, they found out about the cult of Set from one of the guys that's in the city, and they're
Snake cult.
yes, exactly. And they're walking through, and
And nobody likes a snake cult. Like
Right.
they're just kind of like there's like a
they're the
fucking
most
parasite.
powerful.
Yeah.
but people have to like obey them.
And
'cause
they're
so
they're
powerful.
weird pop-ups.
Yes.
Like suddenly they're just popping up all over the place.
Right,
The
exactly.
snake
So-
cult is gaining huge momentum.
Right. and a camel tries his luck with fucking Conan, and Conan
I laughed so hard for way longer than I should have. Because it was so instant.
Yes.
Like the camel looks at him and he just punches it right in the fucking mouth.
Yeah.
I have never seen an animal like that get punched in a movie.
Yeah.
That was really weird. That was bizarre.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was in the script even. Like a part of me thinks that Arnold Schwarzenegger just straight up punched his puppet.
Yeah.
But it really made me laugh.
Yes.
Who punches a fucking camel?
I'll get to it later.
Okay, I can't wait to hear about this fucking camel.
A woman helps them get into the Temple of Set, and they see the high priest of Set, and the cult is doing cultish shit,
not just
having
a
sex.
woman.
Yes,
it's like because becomes a main character.
Well, yeah, we'll
yeah, for sure. But
right.
so like this lady really enthusiastically wants to get into this snake fucking pit. And what was the reason? Like she had like lost somebody to them.
Yeah,
they had stolen somebody or some shit like that.
Yes, and there was exactly that. And the cult is doing very cultish shit. Having sex, swarming all over themselves and shit like that. And Conan just gets down there and starts stealing shit. He starts taking.
Yeah, because at this point, him and his buddy they just want riches and shit.
Yes,
they're just they're marauders.
Exactly,
they just want
right.
some shit.
However, he sees a symbol of Set, and then he's reminded of from when he was a kid, and he remembers
he's
that
like,
exact
oh,
symbol.
I know these dudes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And Snake tries to sneak up on him.
Not just a snake.
Yes,
A
gigantic
fucking,
snake.
Yeah, like a leviathan.
Monstrous snake. Yes. Conan gets in a fight with the snake and stabs the shit out of it and gets some
right
help.
in the fucking mouth.
Yes.
And then his buddy just lights it up.
Yes.
It took two for sure.
Yep.
And then Conan slices his head off.
Right. And they start to crawl their way out of the place, and at this point the cult notices the dead snake, and the woman barbarian helps them get out of that area.
The woman barbarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. They don't even give her a name in this. So,
stop. In the entire movie she doesn't have a name?
Let me look it up.
Dude, she better have a fucking name. Otherwise, I'm going to laugh my fucking ass off. Everybody gets a name except for the woman. They do women in this movie super dirty, though.
I mean, yeah, of course.
I don't know about of course.
1982 fucking film about barbarians.
We were just talking about a movie, remember Commando?
Oh, no, she does have a name. I'm sorry. Valeria.
Okay.
So we can feel okay now. They did women okay. They head back to the guild hall, and Conan gifts the woman with the gem he stole, and of course they get it on because she's so happy for the gem. So
and then they have a blast. They have a bender.
Well, right. Well, no. So now time is passing, and he's stealing and doing all this other shit, and they're so successful with everything that they're doing that he's just gotten bored with it.
Yeah.
So Conan actually gets arrested, and the women get arrested, and they get taken to the king of the land.
Yep.
And the king is impressed with the fact that they aren't fazed by the cult of Set. They're the only people that don't give a fuck about them.
Yeah, and even the king is just like, dude, these people are an enormous pain in my ass.
Yes, and more importantly, his daughter was taken by Thulsa Doom, and he wants to get her back.
And not really taken. She kind of fell to the cult.
Well, that's not what he says, though. He says that she was kidnapped by Thulsa Doom.
I guess I didn't really see any evidence of that until they show her.
Of course,
later.
right, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So, and then Conan's old lady, she's like, I'm not about that life at all. And she advises him, no, don't go to this cult or whatever, the Set, the main portion of they're very dangerous and you're going to end up dead. And so they fuck one more time to for old time's sake. And then
he's just like, okay, I'm out. I'm peaceful.
In the morning before she wakes up, he's already gone.
Yeah.
And Conan at this point meets up with the narrator of the film.
Yes.
The chronicler.
Yeah. Who's like a wizard?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Conan
who just lives in the middle of the fucking desert.
Yeah, for sure.
In bone huts.
Yeah.
An old abandoned bone hut city.
And he continues on his path and he goes to sleep.
But he makes
one night.
friends with him.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Because he seems like an incredibly chill dude.
Right.
Yeah.
Conan he jumps on a camel at this point.
This guy, by the way, Mako, I think is his name.
Yes, Mako is his name.
He narrated, when I was watching this, I was just like, why in the fuck do I know this voice? Who is this that I know his voice? It turns out that he is a character in a show called Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Got it.
He is a character in the first season named Iroh, who is kind of like a fan favorite.
Okay.
Avatar is a show where everybody's a fan favorite, but Iroh is specifically like a fan favorite.
Yeah.
And then there's an episode where it's an incredibly sad episode.
Sure.
where at the end it's there's a little thing that says for Mako, and it's because during this he had passed away, and they had to change his voice actor, and that was really sad. But like I was like, oh, okay, that's where I know this dude.
Sure.
It was cool seeing him as an actor.
Sure, yeah,
you know?
in the old days, right? Yeah.
He was a cool actor too. He had a lot of like on-screen charisma.
So Conan, for whatever reason, goes to sleep in the middle of the desert right here, and wakes up, and there's a caravan of people there as he wakes up. Like you wouldn't have heard this and been woken. Well, whatever. One of the followers comes up to him and hits on him, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do this." And like,
super weird. This entire scene was so weird because he wakes up and it's a caravan of
set followers.
Yep. And he kind of realizes that.
Yep.
And then this guy comes up and he's just like, hey, you're not supposed to be wearing what you're wearing.
Right.
And then the guy's just like, well, do you want to help me change type shit? And I was like, what? You're like, how did you even pick that up? Like, how'd you know?
And takes him out back and beats his ass and then takes his clothes. Looks ridiculous in these clothes, of course, too, you know?
Yeah.
Joins the followers of
I didn't super like that scene, by the way.
For sure. Of course not. It's ridiculously 80s.
Yeah.
So, and it's almost like late 70s more so than anything else.
Okay.
Joins the followers
what
of
year
set.
Did this come out in?
82.
Okay.
So, I mean, 80.
It was definitely being written in the 70s.
Yes. Meets Thulsa Doom, who addresses the followers.
Yep.
Instantly busts his ass out as the person who's doesn't belong.
That's James Earl Jones, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Thulsa Doom is
because he's like making his way up and like trading his like pendant and stuff to get closer and closer and closer. And he's like in his mind, he's just like, oh, I'm gonna fuck these guys up right now. And then they're just like.
Infidel. Right, he's infidel. They grab him, they beat his ass, and they
beat his ass.
Yes.
They whoop the shit out of him.
Take him in front of Thulsa, and Thulsa kind of gives him a breakdown what's really strong. Because he's like, basically, Conan, he talks a lot of his shit, and Conan's like, you killed my mom or whatever.
Mom and dad, yeah, for sure. And he's just like, oh, yeah, I used to do shit like that.
Right, well, no, he's like, yeah, back when I thought steel was important, I used to do that and conquer tribes and stuff like that.
And used to take their swords.
I'm way above that now. That is bullshit.
He's just like, hey, watch what I can do. Watch what I can do.
Yeah.
Hey, lady,
come to me.
Kill yourself.
Come to me, child.
And she's just like, yeah, dope, and just kills himself.
Yep.
Or kills herself.
That is strength.
Yeah, he's just like, do you have any idea how fucking powerful I am now that I can just make people fucking kill themselves? That's wild. That's way stronger than fucking steel.
Yes, this whole scene is fucking insanity, dude.
Yeah.
And he's like, I gave you a purpose here, and look at what you've done with your purpose, And
I'm more of a father to you than your father ever was.
And you know what? You're going to have some time to think about that as you're crucified on the tree of woe. And he gets put on a fucking tree and crucified. Yeah. And a vulture lands on him.
Yeah, starts pecking out his fucking arm
and bites the fuck out of this vulture.
What a scene, dude.
Yeah, man. No shit. And then his friends show up, and of course they rescue him. The woman takes him to the sorcerer to heal him.
Yep.
And we get
because he's gonna die.
Yes, he's been out there for a while.
Yeah, he's straight up gonna die.
Crucifying kills people.
Yeah, turns out. He's dying of exposure. This guy hasn't eaten or drank anything in a long time.
Yes.
Birds have been poking himself out.
Yep.
And so they take him to his friend
Mako.
Yeah, the wizard, and they're just like, "Hey, can you revive him?" And Mako's like, "Yeah, but this is gonna get wild.
Yes.
Like I could do it." But it's gonna get fucking wild.
It gets wild,
and then it does get wild.
They like wrap him up, and then the spirits show up and all this other shit. And he is healed though from this.
Yeah. He wakes up and he's just like, "Oh shit, that was cool."
And then we get the Conan Arnold posing scene.
Of course.
Smooth. I know this is like so ridiculous. I love this scene. Like just like his different poses with the sword and shit. I'm doing them right now, obviously, but like it's just such a fucking awesome scene to me. I love it. And they, for whatever reason, get painted up with some like barbarian-esque, like black paint all over them.
Of course. Right. Because it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, so he's got to have body paint at some point.
Of course.
And it doesn't look like he would even be for camo. It was just like ridiculous body paint.
Of course. They get painted up and they head back to Thulsa's mountain, and they come across a pleasure room in the mountain, and Thulsa is straight getting the groove on chilling, and out of fucking nowhere...
What?
Turns into a fucking snake.
Oh my God.
No big
what a
deal.
Scene, dude. This was such a fucking, bad trip of a scene.
Oh, I need to bring up too, because I almost forgot about this scene. When Thulsa is showing his power and whatnot, he's like, I I didn't really have too much of a problem with you, but you killed my fucking snake. My monster snake. Like, what the fuck did you do that for?
And then he straight up turns into a snake.
Yes.
And it's not even like a big snake.
No.
It's
him
like
as a snake.
Little old snake.
Yep. Crazy shit, man. Yeah, he turned into a snake, like you said. No big deal, And then the attack begins. This is where they attack, and they do pretty well. Yeah. And they're fighting against everybody. Conan fights against the two barbarian dudes and whatnot. Everything's going good, and they get the girl that they're supposed to get, rescue her. And they take off from there. But of course, Doom is a smooth motherfucker, and he talks to his arrow, his snake arrow, shoots the snake arrow, and murders Conan's girlfriend.
Dude, straight up.
Yes.
Yeah, she just dies.
And they get to
right off the horse, dude. I was like, oh Jesus.
Yeah, you got in the side, man.
Yeah, poor girl.
So they get to a place where they're going to defend themselves against Doom's coming, because they know he's going to come after the daughter, and they set up a bunch of defensive lines.
They have a funeral for the lady first.
Yes, they of course. Oh, that's okay. Now, all right. So after the snake shot, they set up a funeral for Valeria, and they burn her and everything, and they start to set up the defenses for when Doom's going to come and try to get the girl back that they kidnapped. That they kidnapped from his kidnapping.
Yes.
Clearly, though, this is where you point out she's down with Doom. Like she's not there as like a kidnapped
she wants to go back.
Like that. She wants to go back.
Yeah.
As they're getting ready, and Doom is starting to ride across the thing, and then the music's hitting again. Conan gives arguably like the best prayer I've ever heard in my life. Like he's just like, Crom, give me the power to fight against my enemies. I never ask you for anything. Yeah. Help me wish one time, and if you don't, fuck you.
Yeah, and he's like, and if you don't, get fucked then.
Right, exactly. I'll do it my fucking self. Yeah. The hell with you. Traps start going off.
And if you don't help me, you're an enormous bitch.
Yes, exactly. A lot of good traps and a lot of fighting happens here. And Conan starts to get into like kind of a bad position. Yep. He's about to get killed.
Knocked down. He's about to get killed. I was just like, well, okay.
And then Valeria shows back up as a Valkyrie. Yep. So. Because she's got the wings and everything else, so she's a Valkyrie. So that's in that scene. So because she's been, she's done well enough that Crom takes her in, and now she's a Valkyrie from Crom. There's like some Odin like sort of things going on with Crom and shit.
10,000 years before any of that.
Exactly. So, but this is what created all that. So. As things start to get bad...
Yeah, because they do talk about Valhalla at some point.
Yes, of course. Because he talks about that Crom ignores everybody, and they have to do well in Crom's eye, otherwise they won't be allowed in Valhalla. So things start to go very well for Conan and his crew, and they're pretty much killing everybody, and Thulsa's like, I'm fucking out of here, man, and he bails on the situation. Conan follows after him, and he sneaks into the camp. He's got the sword now that his dad had, because the barbarian had that sword. Yeah. It's broken, though.
Yes.
Okay? And that's an important thing, obviously, because then he goes back to where Thulsa is with all of the set, his crew and everything else, and he sneaks into there, and he crawls up to the top, basically, where Thulsa is giving his prayers and everything else, and he kind of has a confrontation, and they're kind of like... He kind of starts to, because you see scenes where like he's looking at the sword and like thinking about what Thulsa has told him about how weak steel it actually is and how strong flesh is over this and that, and it's kind of like he almost has, and Thulsa's like, "Come to me, my son," and everything, and like
he's trying to convince him too that like he's been more important in his life than anybody else,
right?
And that he should just be a follower of
right,
this guy.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I mean, clearly he gave him purpose to life when it boils down to it. Yeah. And I think
this is where he said, "I've been more of a father to you than your father."
Yes, absolutely. And like for a second, he is kind of disarmed by it and whatnot. And then of course he cuts his head off, just like Thulsa cut his mom's head off. And we pretty much, his head gets thrown down the thing, and then all the followers of Set are like, "Oh, that guy was a bitch." Like pretty much like, "Oh, he wasn't a prophet at all. We just throw our flames into this water, and we're done with this bullshit."
And it's like, okay, everybody go home now.
Yeah, exactly. The party's over with. It's all done, and we get a wrap up of Conan's life at this point because that's the end. It's very
like this really badass, like grizzled looking.
Yes,
Conan.
Old Conan who's very unhappy on his throne, and he's just basically King Conan at this point in time, and that is the end of Conan the Barbarian.
They're just like, and then he became king sometime later.
Yes.
All right.
So
give me some behind the scenes.
Yeah. So. Important to note that this is like the first movie like this. This is one of the first sword and sandals movies that was like next level, rated R, barbarian style. Like they definitely had like Jason and the Argonauts and shit like that.
Okay.
But never anything like as gritty and fucking like murderous as this. And like as they wanted this movie to be originally when they set this up. Are you familiar with Robert E. Howard at all?
I don't know why that sounds familiar.
He's the writer of Conan.
Okay.
Coincidentally, he also had a little bit of correspondence with Lovecraft and whatnot. And coincidentally, you'd be shocked to hear racist, sexist.
Wow.
Growing up in the 1930s.
Yeah.
The best thing he did is he killed himself at like age 31 after his mom died. He was pretty much a piece of shit. He created the Conan universe and whatnot. Conan as well. But
it's super stupid. The things he created, right? His amalgamate of like this one word that appears in a thing and then Norse mythology, was like, for a person who really enjoys a well-crafted world, what a stupid world.
This movie, I'm not going to get to my comments there. This movie was the first one, and they wanted this to be like a 12-movie series like James Bond. They were just going to keep on doing Conan stuff. Sure. This is the first Arnold movie, and turned him into the star that we know. This movie, he got paid like $250,000 for this film. So that's like nothing, obviously. Back then. The budget for this movie, $20 million, turnaround $80 million. So, I mean, it made four times what it... Right, exactly. The three big guys in this film did almost every single stunt themselves. That's the two like barbarian like bad guys, and then Conan or Arnold. Yeah, they did almost everything themselves. They trained for months in sword combat, so like almost all the sword fighting and stuff like that was practiced like 15 times between each other, and they did every scene.
It really does seem like they had to cut a lot of corners or cut out a lot of like fat if they were going to make money with this movie.
Sure. And the guy that, if you remember the scene where Conan is being trained by that Asian guy, how to fight or whatever, that was the real trainer.
The actual choreographer.
The guy who like trained everybody and whatnot. So they just gave him that part, to be in the movie, of course. The sword manufacturing for this movie was fucking nuts. They made everybody's sword was a real sword that they made.
My God.
It cost $10,000 each sword that they made for this. So like everybody who had a real sword, but when they tried to like fight with these swords, it was clearly impossible because they're like heavy as fuck. These gigantic swords, right? So then they remade aluminum versions of the swords. So anytime they do something like posing or anything like that,
that's a real sword. Yeah.
Any actual fighting was the aluminum weapons and whatnot. So
what a fucking egregious waste of money.
Tons of complaints from the Humane Society for literally punching a camel.
Wait, he really
punched a camel? Yes, and there's tons, because this is before like there's all these actions against like doing things to animals and shit like that.
Oh my God, he punched a real fucking camel?
A real camel.
Has he ever done an interview about this? Has he ever apologized?
I don't think so.
I want to find an Arnold apology about punching a real camel.
Yeah.
Like, I want him to be like in his 50s, as the senator or governor of California, going, I'm sorry for punching that camel when I was younger.
Right.
I hope that exists somewhere.
So we'll get to it eventually, but in the second movie, he punches out a horse.
No, he doesn't. And he punches a real horse?
No, so I don't think he punches a real horse in the second movie, but that's so. So, Conan.
Do I like this movie?
Do you recommend this movie to people?
No, I don't recommend this movie. Nobody who has not seen this movie, go see this movie. Don't watch it. This is a bad movie. It's so bad from beginning to end. The world build is dog shit, and it's a lot of dumb, nothing makes sense, lazy shit. It's lazy shit. It's just like, I'm going to build my own world, but it's actually not. It's just this. And Conan is not a very charismatic character. He's just kind of like a big guy that beats up on things, which like some movies have done well. I think the movies that do it better make me like the guy who's doing the beating up, because there's tons of movies like that, like Taken and The Equalizer and John Wick, and it's just one dude beating up everybody. And like that's fine. Eat Man's like that too.
Sure.
But like all of those movies, I like the main character.
For sure.
This one, I didn't like the main character. He was just kind of like a silent big guy who rapes a chick real early on, so that kind of spoiled it for me. And then the rest of the movie is just kind of silly. I think that's what it is. It's silly and dumb, and I didn't like the main character. So all in all, bad movie. Don't watch this. Nothing about it is fun or redeeming. It's just kind of a thing that's happening, and I didn't like it. What do you think, Jason? Does it hold up?
What did I think of this movie here? I can't wait for you to hear this. And you're about to hear it in 1 second.
Okay.
This is likely my favorite movie we've ever done for this podcast. I absolutely love everything about this movie. I could not believe rewatch. I want to point something out, first of all.
Oh, wait, hold on. Before you say anything, I just want to make a quick commentary. You're gross.
You, when we sat down to watch this movie, I realized something.
Mm-hmm.
I had never seen this movie in its entirety. I had seen the first half an hour, and I have seen Conan the Destroyer a whole bunch of times, and I was just thinking this was Conan the Destroyer, and so when I went back to watch this movie, I realized, like, within 20 minutes, I'm like, anything after, like, he basically becomes a slave and goes on the wheel, I hadn't seen anything past that. This movie was mind-blowingly fucking amazing. I was like, this is an epic of, like, biblical proportions. Like, it sets the groundwork for, like, all kinds of fantasy stories and shit of that nature. Like, the fact that this came from, like, a 1930s story is so, like, mind-blowing to me. Like, this guy's world building. Now, I know you're like, this world building was, and I am...
There was some really good world building that came out in the 1930s.
I am at a disadvantage.
That old-timey stuff.
I'm at a disadvantage because I know so much about the Conan universe.
Tolkien came out of the same
so what?
era.
I know so much about
that's an example of solid world building.
So this has world building to that level. They just couldn't present it in this movie. First of all, like, and I realized, like, they couldn't, like, do that. And so, like, I'm at a disadvantage because I know so much about Conan because I've loved Conan, and, like, without even realizing how great the first movie was. There's so much to this, like, this cult of Set. There's so much, like, there's all these different, like, religions and whatnot throughout this universe, and all these different lands and warriors and all this shit. It's so awesome. Like, the swords and sorcery
none of that
sandals
was in this movie.
So great. Well, yeah, clearly you have Crom, the clear difference between Crom and Set is clearly this powerful god that's I mean, it changes fucking James Earl Jones to a goddamn snake. Now, in the real story, Thulsa Doom is, like, supernatural. Like, and we know he's supernatural because he has, like, a skull head and shit. So he doesn't actually have a face or anything like that. So you know he's, like, this, like, weird creature, and he has a snake around his neck and shit like that. So, but I love the performances. I love the minimal dialogue. I love it so much, just show instead of say. The music, oh my God, it was so beautiful. Like, all the shit, like, James Earl Jones, how he, like, goes from this, like, conquering chaos warlord from Warhammer to this, like, I'm above all this shit because I have transcended to this next level. And then he gets chopped down by Conan. And the fact that Conan goes
unceremoniously.
from, like, I'm this person who believes in sword and steel, and his character development is so awesome because it's like he goes from I don't believe in any of this shit to, like, I actually, like, have been influenced by Thulsa Doom, and, like, I know that, like, I throw down my father's sword because it means nothing to me because Thulsa is right. Steel is weak. It's just another thing. I am strong because Conan is strong. Dude, this movie is fucking amazing. I don't know if, like, it is definitely my favorite thing we've watched because I really liked watching Alien. I liked, like, obviously Kingdom of Heaven was awesome.
You like the cringiest movies.
Kingdom of Heaven was fucking awesome.
Good, yeah.
We've done a lot of great movies. This movie was just so fucking epic. Like, Ben-Hur, like, this should be, like, a movie, and it's, like, so Italian too, like how it's delivered.
It's Italian as fuck.
It's very, like, 1980s Italian, and it reminded me a lot of, like, the old, like, westerns that were done. Did you ever watch any of those, like, old 80s Italian western films? Like, no. That's where Django, you know, came from, and all this other type of shit. Yeah, exactly. I love those movies too. So maybe that's why I'm already.
The closest I ever saw, the closest I ever came to watching a spaghetti western was Tombstone.
Tombstone. That's barely a spaghetti western too.
That's the closest I came.
Yeah, interesting. So
I know that was like way at the end of that.
Felt like so western to me and whatnot. So And watching these scenes so much felt like that. So what I would suggest is get yourself a cowboy outfit. Put your cowboy outfit on, because next week we're going to watch Blazing Saddles.
Oh, I've never seen that.
We are going to watch it live next week.
No, we won't.
The Riddle of Steel. Yes, you know what it is, don't you, boy? Shall I tell you? It's the least I can do. Steel isn't strong, boy. Flesh is strong. Look around you. There on that rock. That beautiful girl. Come to me. That is strength, boy. That is power. The strength and power of flesh. What is steel compared to the hand that wields it? Look at your strength in your body. The desire in your heart. I gave you this. Such a waste.